treat tonight with the folks we have on here with the medical backgrounds. All of them have great testimonies. We've got Andrea McKinney on here, and she's going to give her testimony. So one thing that I would highly, highly, highly recommend is go find us on Facebook. And you find me on Facebook, and these folks are going to be sharing it to their page. And then once we cover all this information, whoever invited you, whoever tagged you on this call, get back with that person so that you can get the information from them. And I want you to think of 5. Here comes Trav. Hey, Trav, you're on here. You can't see yourself, but we know you're on here. We have a lot of people on, so it doesn't show everybody. So what we're going to go through is the Feel Great system. And we're going to show you, this isn't proven. I mean, if any of you remember the old Rexall Pharmacy, they were the biggest pharmacy chain in the entire country for about 70 years. That company started to have some financial problems, went through 5 CEOs in 10 years. And then one of their employees, Stuart Hughes, bought Rexall, renamed it as Unicity, because he knew that if big pharmaceutical companies bought it, they would basically get rid of all the natural products and they would squash it because there's no money in healthy people. So now the new company is named as Rexall. But if you can think of 5, 10, 15, 20 people that you're concerned about with their health, and if you don't know this, 9 out of 10 people in our country are now dealing with metabolic syndrome. And it's kind of like the leaky pipe behind the wall that you don't know is dripping. It's in the basement. It's out of sight. It's out of mind. You don't feel bad yet, but that damage is getting done. So the Feel Great system, we're going to talk through 2 products, and it's going to support metabolic health. And we're going to go really quickly through this, a lot quicker than we normally do. Because we got some great folks on here and I want to hear from them. So insulin resistance, I'm in a different view. So insulin resistance is a root cause of many, many issues. I seen an endocrinologist. I actually seen 13 endocrinologists in a 20-year time frame because I worked for John Deere and I moved from factory to factory. So I had to get a new doctor. And it was always the same story. Your A1C is high, your blood sugar's high, crank up more insulin. I would go back 3 months later, I would gain weight. I would go back, my A1C would be bad, my blood sugar would be high, I'd be fatter and fatter and fatter. And actually, this went on for 5 years. I gained 80 pounds. Wow. And I remember talking to the doctor. I'm like, so doc, I come in here, you tell me how bad I'm doing. You tell me I need to eat better and exercise more and drop the weight. I said, it just isn't working. He's like, well, unfortunately, insulin's a growth hormone and you're going to continue to gain weight. I said, so that's our program. We're just going to keep dialing it up and dialing it up. And I'm going to jump into a coffin early. And he's like, yeah, it's a pretty bad disease, but you're going to live with it forever. And that couldn't have been farther from the truth. So insulin resistance, if we fix that, the rest of all these issues go away. But if we ignore insulin resistance, things like skin tags pop up. And some of these folks may talk about some of these things in their talk tonight. I don't even know exactly what they're talking about, but they're going to be all tied to insulin resistance somehow. So skin tags on the neck, armpit side area. Insulin made me get fatter. High insulin makes those skin tags grow. It's a growth hormone, but as soon as you reverse it, they literally will start to fall off when you start getting healthy. Psoriasis, acne, dark pigmentation on your neck, all signs. PCOS in women, number 1 cause of infertility in women is PCOS. Number 1 cause of PCOS, insulin resistance. Fatty liver, 40% of the people in our country now have a fatty liver. 10% of all children now have an alcoholic disease. 1970, it was alcoholics. Arthritis. If you crave salty, sugary foods, if you are constantly hungry, if you're tired, especially after you eat, if you have that brain fog, maybe anxiety, depression, migraines, a lot of that is due to poor gut health. We've got a couple of GI gut health experts on the call tonight, but Mimi's going to be talking about gastrointestinal issues with insulin resistance. Diabetes, right? Type 2, Alzheimer's and dementia. They're referring to that as type 3. And then inability to lose weight. 80% of the people, I think 78% of the people in our country are dealing with overweight conditions. But the problem is it's not the jiggly fat that we don't like to look at. It's in between the muscle and the organs, and that's called visceral fat. It's literally it through your liver, it's around your heart. It does a lot of damage. So even skinny people, if you have that little bit of pooch out the front, that's a sign that you're insulin resistant. And if you have 2 or more of these symptoms, you are, and you're headed down, you're headed towards a rough road if we don't get ahead of it. So how do we get it? There's people on here way more qualified than me to talk to this. But bottom line is it's our diet. I know some of them are going to touch on it. We've been told to eat and snack 6 to 11 servings, 11 meals a day. They tell us to eat 6 to 11 servings of carbohydrates a day, actually. Every time we eat, even healthy nuts, a healthy apple, healthy steak, even protein will cause a little bit of a blood sugar spike. And when our blood sugar spikes, our insulin, if we're type 2 or if our pancreas works, the blue line or the purple line is insulin. It'll cause your blood sugar to crash. Long story short, this is happening all day long. And eventually insulin, it's just starting to come down and your glucose is coming back up because we've ate again. And eventually it stays high. And then that is when this insulin resistance happens. And it's not only how often we eat, they've modified the food. I'm sure some of these folks are going to talk about how they've stripped the fiber out of our food and go from there. Well, I'd like to now actually bring our first guest, and Andrea has such a good story. She's helping people all over with their metabolic health. And I'm so proud of what she's doing, not only getting healthy herself, but she's sharing it with others. So, Andrea, thank you for coming on. How did you get started? What was your thoughts when you first got started, and what's it done for you?
Thank you, John. Glad to be here to share. Well, my story begins with gaining 40 pounds last year in 4 months. And I'd never done that before. And I was like, how do I get rid of this? I tried all of the normal things I usually do, couldn't get rid of it. I got some lab work done. The result was, well, we're not really sure, but you might have fatty liver. And so I started taking liver supplements, thinking that would help. And after a couple of months, that didn't change anything. And Bob contacted me, Bob Huttinga, and he said, hey, I've got something I think you should take a look at. And so I looked at what he sent, but I was busy and I was kind of just blowing it off and didn't pay attention. And finally, I kind of looked at some of it and I called him up and I said, so just bottom line, what is this? And he said, well, you do a little bit of intermittent fasting till noon and you do a fiber drink. And I was ignorant, totally ignorant about what fiber does. And I thought, well, I've been intermittent fasting till noon for 2 years. Or, so I'm still 40 pounds overweight, 60 actually. So, and I thought the fiber, all that did was fill you up so you didn't eat so much. And I thought I don't have a problem with overeating. So I didn't really see how it was going to help me. And so I let it go for a little while. And then I thought, and I looked at some more stuff he sent me and I went, okay, I guess I'll try it. So I got products from him. And he was out of the country at the time. I started the products. And again, I just really didn't expect any results from that because of what I'd been practicing myself. So I didn't pay too much attention to the protocol. And I drank fiber for a week, all day, instead of Unimate. And by the end of the week, I looked and felt like I was 10 months pregnant. I felt like I was going to shoot me in the head because I was that miserable. So I was disappointed because by that time I had looked at a lot of testimonies and gone, wow, this might be the answer. I've done keto, I've done carnivore, I always gained it back. And so I text Bob or emailed him and said, I think I'm allergic to this stuff. I'm really disappointed I can't use it, but I'm miserable. I can't continue. So I stopped taking it. And then I watched another video he sent. And then I figured out my big dumb mistake, that I was drinking the wrong product all day. And I went, no wonder. So I confessed
You were drinking
to Bob
balance all day. You were drinking
all day
balance all day.
for
Yeah, that'll
six
do it.
days. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll do it.
So I confessed to Bob. I said it was me. I did this. And so I didn't take anything for 10 days just to let my body get back to normal. And then I started April 10th doing the protocol correctly. I started really slow. I started with, little minute amounts of it to let it build up because of what I'd done to my body. I was like, I'm not putting a bunch of fiber in there again real fast. So that's like my long story. But since then, I've learned so much about how important the fiber is in the gut biome. And I'm sure these people are going to address that, but I've learned why we need the fiber. And to me now, it's like, it's food. I don't have to figure out how many vegetables to eat or lentils or beans or anything like that to get my fiber first. And I understood why we do the fiber first. And so now it's just like such an easy way to do this. And I've lost 22 pounds and 18 inches overall. Like if you measure all the normal body parts, at about 2 months, I remeasured and went, wow, 18 pounds, 3 inches off each thigh. I like that, So, yeah. And so that's where I'm at. And now I'm just thinking this is the answer everybody's been looking for 5 decades, so I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I really believe in 5 years, it's going to hit to where it's momentum. And we're going to go into a bakery, gas station. There's going to be a box of Balance Air because it's going to be common knowledge that what this fiber does for blood sugar and just metabolic health. And I can see him at a bakery, Trav, grabbing John Cox walking in there and grabbing a custard filled Long John because that was my go-to. But I probably would have got 2 of those. And they're going to say, John, would you like 1 Balance or 2? Because your blood sugar is going to go crazy. And it's just going to be common knowledge. And we're really going to make a difference. So, Andrea, thank you so much. Hang on this call. It's going to be great. But, folks, we got 28 people on here. We can get this to 50. So go in the comments below, tag your friends and family that you want to make sure they have a better quality of life. They've extended their life. When I die, I want to just be used up and skid 10 feet and just be done. And I don't want to be, because I was set up to live a very ugly life in my future. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to fly through the rest of it. So normally we do a good job covering details. Tonight, we want to hear from all these folks. So there's 2 products, and I'm just going to high level. It's a fiber in a fasting system. Now you can do this for free. However, most people, if they're not walking around with a garden salad in their back pocket. I'm talking a very diverse garden salad with seeds and nuts, no seed oil salad dressings, and in the fiber, like Andrea said, it helps fill you up. It brings blood sugar down. I mean, it coats your stomach. It kind of acts like pectin and jam. It's going to thicken. There's people that are way more qualified to talk to this than me. But if you look over on the right, there's 2 studies. John Cox, I was as skeptical as anybody I've ever shown this because I didn't think it would work. But I'm an engineering background. But when I seen the studies, like the University of Sydney and what the Balance does, the Cleveland Clinic, I knew of the Cleveland Clinic. They are the #1 heart hospital in the world, and they basically said, if this country would take this product right here, the whole population, on a population basis, it would reduce the need and or dose for lipid-lowering drugs, statins. Why haven't you heard about it? I can't imagine why. There's only about only about $500 billion industry in statin drugs. I can't imagine why I never heard of this. And it came out right around the same year. So the second product, so that's the fiber. We take 1 of those a day, and The next one is we've all heard about this GLP-1 craze, synthetic shots, and there may be a time and a place for those, right? But it's not a quick fix. We could lose 100 pounds on those shots. 40% of that's going to be muscle and bone. And if we're over 40, we're not getting that back. This product here takes away the food noise, increases energy, helps with blood pressure, it's an all natural insulin sensitizer. And when we sip on that, we skip breakfast or we skip a meal. We want to eat 2 meals in an 8-hour period. It takes away all the food noise. And long story short, I mean, for me, I lost 67 pounds in 8 months. I never lost a pound the first 30 days. My body was bathing in insulin and I could not lose weight. When I got that fixed, when I got the metabolic flexibility with this tool, it started burning off. If you look at, and I know I'm going fast, but you guys don't want to hear me. We want to hear the doctors and the PAs and all that. I want to hear them too. But this really was a big deal to me. I knew of Rexall. I used to go in there with my grandparents. I probably didn't go in there for medication. I probably went in there for the penny candies, the root beer barrels, the butterscotch, all those that we all ate back then. But then I looked at and there's 5 patents. It's about 10,000, 1 in 10,000 engineers get a patent. And usually they don't mean anything. There's actually 6 patents on this. That was proof to me. The clinical studies were insane. Now, I don't know how to read them like these smart people do, but it was, I seen the graphs, I seen the proof, over 25 clinical studies. It's all safe. It's natural. It's cost neutral. We basically cut out snacks. We skip breakfast. If you truly added all that up, easily saved the $5 to $10 a day. This cost, and actually it's in over 65 countries now. And how we take it is in the morning, we skip breakfast. We mix a Unimate. We sip on that. I'm doing it right now. We sip on that all the way to noon. At noon, I break my fast with some very good whole food. Now, I like pork chops. So today I had 2 pork chops and 6 eggs. I scrambled them and I ate the whole thing. And then dinner, I eat about the same way. Whole foods, healthy vegetables. Now, do I have a carb once in a while? I do, but if I do, I eat it at the end of the meal. And then at the evening, I take the fiber, I mix it up with a bottle that comes with it. I mix it up, I drink it right down before my heaviest meal, keeps blood sugar low, blood pressure low, and it really feeds the gut. So that is what this is. I know I went crazy fast, but now we're going to hear, and somebody, if for those of you that aren't talking, if you could mute your computers or phones, I'm getting a little bit of feedback. I don't know if everybody else can. But I would like to start off with my friend, Travis Robbins. And Trav, I'm getting feedback somewhere. Bob, I don't know if Andrea's muted. Maybe Bob, if you could mute. But Trav, I almost didn't call you, man, because here you are. We went to high school, both went different directions. You went to the service, became a doctor. You were a Division I athlete for Central Michigan University, baseball, just successful, everything you've done. Got out of the Army, retired. Thank you for your service. And then went and was an administrator for a VA medical clinic in South Carolina. And now you're working with your brother on some, medical like accident. I don't even know. You're just too smart and I'm not. So I don't understand it. But walk us through, what your thoughts on the Feel Great system and kind of take it. We got about 8 minutes to get you all in, but what's it made a difference for you very quickly? But what do you want to comment on the system overall? And you take it whatever direction you want to take it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, John. Looking back, I had all the information in my head. In the Army, we always looked at performance and injury prevention, human performance optimization and injury prevention. And so I was very comfortable with inflammation, arthritis, tendinitis, all the common itises. And knowing now what I've learned through the program and through friends like you, I wish I would have known this 20 years ago, because there were so many family members and soldiers and retirees like myself now who could have benefited from the easy components of this protocol. So yeah, when I hear you talk about my background, I should never look like what I did on January 1st of 2024. Yeah, I had all the information in my head, but like so many other people, I had every excuse. I'm stressed. I'm getting old. I feel tired. That's just life. I can't make a change. You know, I was telling myself all those things that so many people say, so many people have said to me. And it literally was a blessing when you called, because my wife and I were literally talking only a few days before you called. And we've tried all of the different programs. You name it, we've tried it. And we weren't sure where we were going to turn next. We work out together, you know, we eat meals together, but we just were not, the dial wasn't moving in our favor. Every year I was gaining more weight. Every year I was feeling more tired. Every year I was feeling more achy. And we were both in a very confused and, I wouldn't say hopeless, but definitely frustrated position. And then you called and I started putting the pieces to the puzzle together. And I realized that I'd been focusing on inflammation, I think correctly, but I wasn't at the root cause yet. So soldiers, family members would come into my clinic and I would treat them for their inflammation, their pain, their muscle aches and arthritis, but I was never getting to the root cause. And it wasn't until you helped me put some of those pieces together that the light bulb came on. And Megan is down almost 80 pounds now. I'm down 20, 25. Yeah, my wife, I've spent my life being outdone by my wife, and I'm comfortable with that. She's a supercharger. But the system, so that is my story. Had the information, but I didn't know how to use it. I was equally frustrated. Every year I felt like the snowball was, you know, rolling me down the hill and crushing me a little bit more. And I wasn't sure what way to go. So if I could tell the audience just a couple things, I would say, this may seem to be too good to be true, but these two products that we're talking about tonight are so powerful and so sustainable that you have to ask yourself, what do I want to feel like by Christmas? I don't want another New Year's resolution. I want a lifestyle change that is going to make me feel like a different person by Christmas. And this is the solution. You get great products with a ton of research. You get a great community that we're in. I know, John, you and I've met in person, but everybody else I know from communicating is part of a community, but we haven't known each other in person, but we still have that camaraderie that comes with being a part of this program. If people have loved ones who are struggling, depression, overweight, not feeling well, don't want to leave the couch because they just feel like their body won't function the way it should, then this is where they have to go. They have to give themselves 90 days. I was listening to Ben Bickman today, and he said, and Ben Bickman, for all those who may not know, is literally a world-renowned physiologist, scientist, PhD out at BYU. Brilliant man who can break the hardest things down into very easy, digestible solutions. And he said, there's no reason why in 90 days we can't reverse insulin resistance. You first have to take the step. You have to want it. You have to want it for a loved one. And then once you get on this program, follow it correctly and use the strategies. And by Christmas, you will be literally a transformed person. And that's what happened to me and Megan. We take this on vacations. We take it on cruises. We take it out to restaurants. We have our shaker bottles and we use them unapologetically because we want people to know that their lives can be transformed. So thank you, John, for calling me.
You bet.
Yeah, we owe you a ton of health and probably healthy years to our lives.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I mean, I got the same call. I wouldn't answer the call for 4 months. I was as negative as it gets. I'm not going to drink your drinks, but I had no plan of getting better ever. I was actually spiraling to an early death. So Trav, thank you so much. So Mimi is a gastrointestinal retired nurse now and does this full time, traveling the Midwest with her husband Ott and helping so many people. So we don't have a lot of time, Mimi, but 5 minutes. Why don't you talk? Just real brief your story, but what this has done and what you see, how you see it helping people when you're in the living rooms of America.
Thanks. Actually, our story started with you because you gave.
If everybody could mute because it's getting feedback.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep, I think we're good now.
Yep. Okay. So our story was when John gave us a call 3.5 years ago, and it was just a call out of the blue, but I swear the timing was perfect because that's when Ott, my husband, was just diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. He had been on blood pressure pills for probably 9 or 10 years. And, his lipid panel was not looking good. He was overweight, always tired. Had gained weight too. I was a nurse, of course, for about 23 to 25 years or so in the GI area, gastroenterology, and a total of almost 40 years now. Wow, that I've been a nurse. So, and I didn't know how to help him. I tried to cook better. I tried to purchase better whole foods. We tried, working out. We tried to skip snacking. It was just hard, right? And so when Ott became a type 2 diabetic and John said, man, I have been type 2 for over 20 years and I am starting to reverse it. And I'm getting off medications and so many new, better energy and less pain. I mean, he had neuropathy that was so severe. I've never heard of somebody having that much neuropathy. So that was when I perked my ears open when he said he was getting off medications, and just within a few months. So that's when I jumped into what is this insulin resistance? How does it relate to all of this? I definitely have to say I had to do a deep dive because I don't remember ever learning about insulin resistance in nursing school. Okay. Even though I knew it was linked to diabetes and heart disease and, you have higher risk of all these chronic diseases, but how and why and what can actually help and why it's such at epidemic levels. And that's when I really had to look at, what am I doing? I mean, here I am a nurse. I always wanted to be someone to help people, right? And I'm not knocking it. I love my profession. I've learned a lot there, but I didn't have the impact to help people reverse their condition at all, really. Going through the motions of just speaking to people and hearing their stories and seeing what they're on, what kind of medications and how long they've been on medications, there's how they feel. I felt frustrated as a nurse. And so when I heard that there was something fairly simple and natural without any side effects, I had to know more. So me being curious, of course, I had to do some reading. And I too, Travis, loved Dr. Bickman. I got his book right away, started digging into that and reading all about insulin resistance. So what we're saying here tonight is really out of science, right? It's backed by literature. It's backed by a lot of clinical studies. And this is a protocol that is just doing wonders for so many people. So where was I? So basically my story is, yes, I was able to lose 40 pounds. I reversed his type 2 diabetes. I no more IBS symptoms because I was one of those, was suffering from gut problems my whole adult years. And I just always tired, right? And I couldn't lose the weight. I had neuropathy in my feet. I probably was a pre-diabetic, but I just didn't know it. But yet I was accepting that because I thought I'm just getting old, right? I have a sedentary life. I'm not doing enough, I'm not disciplined enough. but I didn't realize it was a hormonal problem, right? It's all about insulin resistance. And I had all the key symptoms, right? And so once I got on the program, the weight loss came within about 3 to 4 months. After 4.5 months, I was 40 pounds down. Scott lost 35 right away, but men lose it faster. And then his blood levels, I mean, his blood lipids became normal within 30 to 60 days. And so, this was something that I had to learn more and I had to share it. So I know so many people out there that are suffering from these chronic problems. They're on medications, which it can kind of mask the symptoms, but this is a protocol going to the root cause, which I love. Why not go to the front line and take care of the risk factors, right? Early on before they become so severe you can't reverse them. And I didn't see enough of that. I just love that how this works. So yeah, that's my story.
Awesome.
My career was mostly in GI, so I am attracted to why the fiber is so beneficial for the gut health and for the microbiome, and how the diversity is there, which is the key to metabolic health, is diversity of fiber in our diets, which we don't get enough of. So this is a product that I can stand behind. The literature stands behind it as far as how it works and why it works. And of course, the blunting of the blood sugar spikes that it does and curbs the appetite, which these two products work so hand in hand with all the reasons and the knowledge we have on how and why to reverse this problem.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Well, thanks so much. We'll in the next couple of weeks, we're going to get Mimi on and Travis on for an entire hour, all these folks, because they could do a clinic every day, every week, and I learned so much. So, Mimi, thank you so much. So, we're going to go. I've asked Scott Harker to touch a little bit on gut health, mental health. Why is it rising in our country? And then we're going to have physician's assistant of over 50 years, Bob Huttinga, come on and close this out tonight. We got a hard stop of about 10 minutes till 8 minutes till, because I'm going to do this again at 9 o'clock. But Scott, mental health issues. I know you see it. You're a gut health specialist. You've had some of it hit pretty close to home, but why is it such a big deal, and how does this work?
Yeah. So let me just, most people, don't really think about gut health and insulin resistance and how that relates to depression, how it relates to mental health and anxiety. And yes, it hit home a little bit, John, from the perspective, and I can share this now a little bit with my wife. This was shared with us a little over a year ago, and I won't go into my testimony a whole lot, but me being a gut and metabolic health specialist, one of the things is I'm the same way with like Mimi and Dr. Travis, is that I really didn't know much about insulin resistance and how it really impacted things. And I was on a search for myself. I was trying to lose weight, couldn't quite get there. I was in remission from ulcerative colitis. Lost 45 pounds in 16 weeks. My wife lost about 40 pounds. She was on the path to being diabetic. She was pre-diabetic and got her fasting blood sugars down from about 140 to in the 90s in about 2 weeks, which was just, that's not really heard of, but it happened very quickly for us. But the thing is just to kind of transition there, John, around mental health. She was on antidepressants for over 30 years. And about 9 months into this, she was able to go off of her antidepressants. And, as I start dealing with more and more clients coming in here, I have a lot of folks that I deal with that are in, I would call a depressed state, or they're dealing with anxiety and really have trouble coping with things. And if we look at how the tie between gut health and between that, most people don't think about that. We think about the gut just about moving food through our system and nutrition, right? But when we talk about depression, anxiety, mental health, there's this real tie. We think about those things being the brain, but not anything related to the gut. And the gut can influence so many of those signals involved in how the brain and the nervous system work, right? Your gut and your brain, they're connected through this thing called the gut brain axis. And I could spend a whole hour just talking about that, but we really, really just kind of think we're tied to, we recognize one part of it. Let's think of it this way. Like you get in front of a big presentation or something like that, and we get those nerves and our butterflies happen in our stomach, right? And that's the brain communicating to the stomach. But our gut also talks to our brain, and that traffic goes both ways. And so the gut communicates through the brain through pathways, the nervous system, the immune system, stress response systems, hormones, right, and compounds that we have that produce these trillions of microbiome living in the gut. And that's why gut health is so important to mental health. And when we look at it, there's a couple things then within inside of our body, one called, many people have heard of it, called serotonin. And it's involved in things like mood, sleep, appetite, and digestion. And I want you to think of that think of it less of like a happy chemical, right? It's more of like a part of a body to how it regulates the system. And then dopamine, right? It's heavily involved in motivation and reward, and that's really important because that's where within inside of our gut, serotonin and dopamine, we think about most of the time those are in the brain, but they're really supported by the gut. And so when we have an unhealthy gut, um, we basically get to the point where it starts to impact our mood, how we feel. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you right here tonight that the gut causes all of our anxiety problems, right? All of our depression problems, because there are a lot of things that go with the brain. But it's really hard to be able to have, a good mood, I guess, if you want to put it that way, unless our gut is really, really healthy. And so when we start to fix our gut, it creates an environment for us so that we can get our serotonin, our dopamine, and other things in place for us to be able to start to have good communication between our gut and our brain. Now, one of the takeaways I'd like you to take away here tonight, if you're on this call, and I've been here myself, I was trying to lose weight, and I had somebody that was giving me a little bit of a hard time, and they said, Scott, you just need more willpower. I've talked about the serotonin and the dopamine. That portion. You just need more willpower. Well, I want to give you some hope tonight. You're not crazy if you're on there and you're having trouble. This is a physiological problem, a biological problem that happens within inside of the body when your gut's in dysbiosis, it tells your brain that you're starving. Okay. It says that I need the bad things. I need the carbs. I need the sugar. So just to let you know, there's hope in there tonight. If you've really, really been struggling, that's what this system does. And I'm not going to go into all the science tonight due to the time. But this product right here, this fiber, this complex fiber matrix, but before I found this, I used tons of different fiber matrices with my clients. This was a game changer. I thought I was really good shape with my ulcerative colitis. I found out I took it to the whole next level with this fiber and what it does for us in terms of all the benefits that Mimi and Travis shared with us. But this is what really, really starts to help heal and seal that gut to get us where we're at. And so tonight, if you're dealing with anxiety, depression, any of those things, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's going to get rid of all that. But I'm going to tell you what is if your gut is messed up, right, in terms of being in dysbiosis, meaning more bad bacteria than there's good bacteria, it'll really hard for you to be able to get to where you're in the, I would say, feeling to the best that you can. And going after and trying to fix the gut and what this system does goes a long way. And I'm seeing it not just with my family, but with my clients on a regular basis. So the folks, there's hope there. And I just want to share that with you tonight.
Awesome. Scott, thanks so much. Your knowledge is just crazy. And we're going to very soon, we need to get you on for a full hour. I think just the mental health talk, and but yet really dive into the products, how they work together, and just losing the weight and not having pain and getting your life back. That all ties to it too. It's all about getting you to feel better about you. Right? We judge ourselves on the outside appearance, right? Ladies get thicker hair. Didn't work for me. but I had already had too much cortisol and it fell out. But so we want to close tonight out with a gentleman. I have the absolute utmost respect for all these people. But for 50 years, Bob has been serving the communities, ran a natural store, him and his wife, Barbara, and have been helping people for almost for 5 decades. And I know he's seen a lot of change in 5 decades. Now he's in the Amish communities and he's helping with them. But Bob, if you could come off mute, we're so excited to hear from you. And the floor is yours. You close this out. And I kind of got an idea what you're going to talk about, but the floor is yours.
Okay, John, did you get my slides?
I did, but I had trouble getting them into here. So if we could just talk to it high level tonight, sorry about that.
All right, no problem. I want to talk about metabolism. This is a word that we all hear, and it really means how your body turns food into energy. Barb and I started the Healing Center 23 years ago. And I've been working in the Amish community doing house calls for over 30 years. And next week, we're going to be doing a convention for the Amish in Shipshewana. And John asked me to do a little talk there. So I went to one of the Amish schools and talked to a teacher there and asked him a little bit about what they get as far as education. And he said, very little. I showed him some of my notes and he didn't even know what some of these words were. So what I'm going to do there and what I'm going to do here tonight is just talk about some of the terminology and then go through the whole digestive system. So we have the body as a whole, and then we have organs, and each of these organs is made up of some kind of tissue, and the tissues are made up of cells. And inside of every cell are a bunch of little organs. They're called organelles. They're little factories. And this is where all the energy is made. Mitochondria is one of those organelles. And those organelles and cells are all made up of molecules. Those are made up of atoms and then subatomic particles. So when we look at our food, we have proteins. The proteins are made up of polypeptides. Those are made up of peptides, and the base ingredient in any protein is amino acids. And then carbohydrates, starch is a whole group of glucose molecules that are stuck together. So you have glucose, and there's a bunch of different kinds of sugars. And the word, the letters OSE at the end of any of these, that means that it's a sugar. And then fats are broken down into fatty acids. And then there's something called enzymes. And at the end of enzyme words is ASE. So anything that ends in ACE is an enzyme. So digestion starts in the mouth. And we have 3 saliva glands on each side of our face. One is just in front of our ear. There's one under the jaw, and then there's a pair under our tongue. And the mouth starts the whole process. The chewing of the food breaks it down. Remember your mother said you should chew everything 30 times? Well, that's a really important part of it. But there's also an enzyme in the mouth called amylase made by the saliva glands. And that breaks sugar down into, it breaks starches down into sugars. And then there's the esophagus that transports the food down into the stomach. Now, the stomach produces mucus. It has a lining made of mucus, and it produces hydrochloric acid. And this acid has the acidity of battery acid, but that mucus lining protects the tissue underneath. And then the stomach produces an enzyme called pepsin. And the whole process is to break our food down into a watery liquid. And then there's the liver. Now, the liver filters blood, removes toxins and waste, but the liver produces bile. So blood goes into the liver, it comes out through the portal vein, and bile is manufactured. It also stores glycogen, which is a stored form of sugar, and fats. And the liver has many, many other chemical functions. So the gallbladder stores bile, and every time fatty food hits your mouth, the gallbladder begins to contract. And the purpose of the bile that's squeezed out of the gallbladder is it acts kind of like a detergent. It mixes fatty food with the watery food. So if you're washing your dishes and you got a greasy pan and you put some soap on it, pretty soon that is all mixed up together. And then there's the pancreas. Pancreas has two functions. It makes insulin, which goes directly into our blood. And then it also produces three enzymes. Amylase breaks down carbohydrates into sugar, lipase fats into fatty acid, and protease proteins, peptides down into amino acids. And then there's the small intestine. So the small intestine is 22 feet long. It's a very important part of this because that's where all of these basic ingredients, fatty acids, amino acids, and sugars are absorbed into the blood. And the lining of the inside of the small intestine has these little projections, and that's where all the absorption takes place. And then there's the large intestine. So in the lower right quarter of your body, where the appendix is, it goes up on the right side. It's called the ascending colon. It goes across transverse colon, down on the left side, descending colon, and finally down to the rectum. So one of the purposes of the colon is to reabsorb water. So you have this watery slurry. If you've ever had bad diarrhea, well, that's what that liquid is like in your small intestine. And the colon's job is to suck the water back out of that to have it form stool. And then it is the home of the microbiome, good, healthy bacteria. And that lining has a mucus layer on top of it. That's where these good bugs live. But if that mucus layer gets broken down and these colon cells don't get the right nutrients, then they begin to come apart. Now, their nutrients come from the good bacteria digesting fiber. So they use these fatty acids that are broken down by the good bacteria. And if this goes further, then these cells begin to come apart and you get what's called leaky gut syndrome. And this is a condition where undigested foods are absorbed into the blood. And when this happens, you get an allergic type of reaction and you get a whole bunch of inflammation. So in our healing center in Lakeview, we had a motto, put your health in your own hands. And this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to teach people to take responsibility for themselves. I have normalized my blood pressure. Acid reflux is gone. I had an esophageal stricture. That's gone. Back pain from a congenital birth defect, all gone. Eliminated about 25 pounds. My prostate is working better. Don't have to take afternoon naps anymore. General energy is very good. And I have to thank Shelby Craney for contacting me and asking me if I'd want to look at some kind of natural system. And I said, sure, as long as it's not a multi-level marketing company, because I'd been in a bunch of those. And she said, no, you don't have to be. But once I saw what it could do, I knew that I needed to share this with as many people as possible. I knew about insulin resistance, but traditional medicine has no tools to fix it. They just chase symptoms and sell their medications and surgeries and procedures to try to deal with all of those symptoms that John talked about before. So thank you much for the opportunity, and I'll see you next week, and I'll have some slides then. So. John, unmute yourself.
John, you're on mute.
Yeah, it works every time, doesn't it? So Bob, I would love it if you would get on a live between now and the next. Let's go through all your whole slides, because I mean, I've never heard it explained that way, let alone in 10 minutes. And now I'm like, I got to see it. But it was my fault. I couldn't get some of them to upload and today in the time that we had. So folks, we're going to end it right now. You're going to be able to go on people's pages and watch the restream. Everybody, and if you want, if you haven't been able to restream it now, you can find the recording will be on my Facebook page, and then you can share it to yours. But get with the person that invited you on this call. They're trying to save your life. They're trying to improve the quality of life, and they're trying to prevent you from ever having conversations with your doctor about things you don't want to have conversations with later. So prevent it versus try to treat it later. Folks, I got to go. I'm going to close this out. Thank you, all the speakers. Andrea, for your testimony. We're going to be going live in 9 more minutes on my same page with all my Amish friends from Northeast Iowa that can do Facebook. So join us there. It's going to be fantastic. Talk about stories. Holy smoke. So we'll see you then. Thank you.